Show with Almond. I'm Almond Lee. I'm a journalist based in Hong Kong, and we give you the weekly updates in Hong Kong every week. On Sunday, this morning here in Hong Kong, depending on where you are in the US or elsewhere, good afternoon or good evening. So I didn't give you guys a heads up of what we're going to talk about this week, but here you go. We are talking about pro-independence crackdown in Hong Kong. And this week, I'm very honored to have a guest joining me who is from Student Localism, which is a pro-independence group, used to be in Hong Kong, and now it has been disbanded because of national security law concerns. And recently, I just want to give you guys a little bit of update and background information of what has happened in Hong Kong. So in the past week, there's this person, Tony Chung. I'm going to show you guys his picture. So this is Tony Chung. So he's the former convener of this group, Student Localism, and he has been arrested under the national security law, and he's facing charges related to secession or seditious intent and things like that. And on the show this week, I've invited one of their conveners in the U.S. divisions to join us. So let me just bring him in. Let me see. All right. Hi. So this is Indy Path from Student Localism U.S. division. And just for the record, this is his alias. And so it's not his real name because he also wants to protect his identity. And because, like I said, this is a very sensitive topic that we're talking about this week. So he is on his alias and with face covering. So hope you guys would understand. Hello, welcome to the show, Indy Path.
Hi.
Hello. So I guess so you're part of this group, Student Localism. You are the conveners of the U.S. division, correct?
Yes.
Right. So, like I said just now, Tony Chung has been arrested in the past week, and he's facing charges under the national security law. I believe he's also the second person being charged under the law in Hong Kong. So, can I ask, has there been any reactions or concerns among your group, Student Localism, since his arrest, as well as other members? There are two other members being arrested earlier this week as well.
Yeah, so obviously among us, Student Localism US Division, we are obviously very worried, and we hope that Tony Chung will be released as soon as possible, and the other members who are now out on bail can be exonerated. And we would like to say that this national security law is a draconian law that is taking away our freedoms, and it is absolutely unacceptable. And you can see from what I'm wearing that how dangerous it is to speak up for Hong Kong independence, to speak up or even just speak up for the democracy movement, or speak anything against the Chinese Communist Party, or have any relations with foreign organizations, etc. All these are against the national security law, and so it is very worrying for us, but we will try our best to keep on with our spirit and keep on fighting till the day we triumph.
Right. I can also hear your voice. You're very nervous in a sense that I can feel. So don't worry about it. Relax. We're just going to slow down a little bit so that our audience can also hear you fine. So another question that I have for you, obviously, of course, the arrests of your former members in Hong Kong. Do you have any updates on them, as to, what is the status of their cases now, or have you been in contact with those members or legal teams in Hong Kong?
So I haven't been in direct contact with any of the arrested members or their legal teams since their most recent arrest, but I have heard from other members that other former members of Student Localism that right now, other than Tony Chung, the three other former members of Student Localism who has been arrested are now released on bail, and they will have to check into the police station, I think, every month, and we have not much update on whether they will be charged or what will happen to them next. But essentially, you can say they are living on borrowed time, and they cannot see what the future will be like, and even though technically they are still free outside, unlike Tony Chung, who is actually inside the prison, but still, like, these members, they have sacrificed a lot, and and they are suffering unimaginable pressure and pain from these arrests.
Right. So as far as we know, Tony Chung, he's still in custody right now, and the information that we have so far is that he's going to court in January, which is another 2 months in Hong Kong, and he'll be in remand for these 2 months at least. If that case, if the trial doesn't get any more delayed, for whatever reasons. So just to give us a little bit of background, do you mind? So what is student localism, and why did you guys started this political group?
So I think the background we can start it from the 2014 umbrella movement, where like millions of Hong Kongers occupied the streets for 79 days in a civil disobedience movement to demand for genuine universal suffrage. But unfortunately, the umbrella movement has failed, and after that, like, a lot of people started imagining new ways to fight for freedom in Hong Kong. And one of the ways that a lot of people started to realize is that we need Hong Kong independence as our only way out to achieve genuine democracy. And so Tony Chung and a bunch of other young students who are passionate about Hong Kong and believe that Hong Kong independence is our only way out, they start this organization called Student Localism in 2016. And since then, we have been advocating for Hong Kong independence, and in 2016 our organization have been going into schools to advocate for Hong Kong independence to students, and so this organization kept on going until 4 years later, until now. Yes, definitely. So yes, because as Almond has said, like, the core value of student localism is to fight for Hong Kong independence, and which is like clearly violates the national security law. It's listed in the Article 20 and 21 that if you try to advocate for independence of any part of China, then you are violating national security law and could face up to life imprisonment. And that's why we sense a very huge threat from the national security law. And we realized that, like, for the safety of our members, like, the best way to do it is that we have disbanded the Hong Kong headquarters, and members like me who have the great privilege to head out to foreign countries where we won't be immediately persecuted by national security law just because the Hong Kong government cannot arrest us all the way from US. And so we established, like, overseas divisions in the US for me, and that's how we keep the organization going while trying to keep our members safe theoretically. But unfortunately, that's not what happened.
Right, for sure, with the arrest of Tony Chung and also the other members in Hong Kong. So I'm just going to go through some of the comments in our comment section. So there are some questions there as well. Byron16 asking, does it mean, is it so they can prosecute Chinese descendants in Hong Kong? So assuming, Byron, you are talking about the national security law. I guess that's one way you can say that, because there has never been a national security law or something resemble national security law in Hong Kong so far since the handover of Hong Kong back to China. So it is quite unprecedented in a way that Beijing now has a little bit more control, tighter control of Hong Kong. And there are also critics, I'm sure Indiepath would probably agree with me, that this national security law has been seen as a tool that the Chinese government is trying to use to, tighten the control of, say, press freedom, freedom of speech, freedom of assembly, something like that. So yeah, that is what the let me just give you one graphic real quick that I've created. So just about the national security law. So basically, the nutshell is that the NSL punishes secession, subversion, terrorism, and collusion with foreign powers. Now, these charges or offenses are quite vague, if you will. And also, when the national security law was enacted in June in Hong Kong, there was pretty much no details given to the Hong Kong people. It was just, waiting, from the officials saying that, let's just wait and see what the ordinances would be, what the clauses would be. So there was a lot of uncertainty and the lack of clarity of the law itself that creates such, a fearful environment to, for Hong Kong public, basically. So yes, that's one of the, nutshell of the NSL and why people are so worried about it, such as, student localism and Indiepath and pro-democracy activists in Hong Kong. There's another question from Brad. Is there any legal pathway for independence, or would some kind of coup d'etat would be the only option? Indiepath, do you want to take this question from our audience, Brad? Is there any legal pathway for independence in Hong Kong?
So this is a bit of a difficult question. So what we student localism are advocating is that in 1961, according to the declaration, in order to the United Nations, they signed a declaration on the granting of independence to colonial peoples and countries. And according to that declaration, Hong Kong, which was a colony of the Great Britain at that time, should have been given the chance to have a self-determination referendum to decide our own future using our own votes. However, in 1972, after the People's Republic of China replaced the Republic of China to take a seat in the United Nations, they proposed a motion to remove Hong Kong from the list of applicable colonies, and that is why Hong Kongers lost our right to self-determination, and we were forced to accept the fate of a transfer of sovereignty to China. But therefore, that's why we believe that that decision in 1972 to remove Hong Kong from the list of applicable colonies is a historical mistake that we should fix. And that's why I believe one of the legal paths could be to go back to the United Nations to convince each country that Hong Kongers should have been given the chance of self-determination, and then if the United Nations can enforce something, or some sort of international court can enforce a self-determination referendum in Hong Kong, then this could be a legal pathway to independence. So this is a very long path ahead, but that is what we believe could be a possibility.
Right, but at this point, say in the context of Hong Kong, it's fair to say that there's really no legal pathway at this moment if we're not talking about taking the path, like you said, going to the UN, going to international court, and not to mention that the UN, I'm not quite familiar with that concept that you just mentioned. That's also new to me. But given that, I don't know which UN body we're talking about, but if you talk about, like, say, UN Security Council, China is the permanent member on the board. So could that also be an obstacle in terms of, going international efficacy or international legal pathway?
Yeah, that is definitely a huge difficulty that unfortunately the People's Republic of China is one of the permanent members of the UN. But I think another thing that this will be related to is to get the Republic of China, or also known as Taiwan, will get them back into the United Nations, as the Republic of China was in the United Nations before 1972. But then, like in 1972, People's Republic of China was given the seat instead. And therefore, Therefore, what we believe is an important step is to get the Republic of China back to the United Nations, and this will obviously require many of the Western countries like the United States, UK, etc., to recognize Taiwan instead of China. And so it's a difficult path, but
Sure.
there are countries who have succeeded through some sort of mechanism like this. Like for example, East Timor in like the early 2000s, they achieved independence from Indonesia through some sort of bargaining with the United Nations. And obviously, Hong Kong's context is totally different. But I think there are previous examples where independence could be achieved.
Right. Thank you for joining us again. Let me just give a really short, brief recap to the audience who just joined us. So this week on In a Nutshell with Almond, we are talking about pro-independence crackdown in Hong Kong. So recently, just in the past week, we have a fresh round of arrests of some pro-independence activists here in Hong Kong from this group called Student Localism. So one of the convener, which is Tony Chung, or former convener, I should say, because the group is now disbanded in Hong Kong. So Tony Chung, the photo that you're seeing here, he was arrested under the new national security law in Hong Kong, and he's facing charges of, for example, let me just give you this graphic real quick. So Tony Chung, he was arrested and he's currently facing charges related to secession, conspiracy to publishing seditious publication, presumably on their social media platform, for example, Facebook or Instagram and things like that. And joining me this week, later on we'll bring him back. You'll see Indipath. So he is the U.S. convener, the convener of the U.S. Division. And we're talking about how the new national security law has this sort of chilling effect on the pro-democracy movement in Hong Kong, and especially pro-independence, because that is a big red line for the Chinese government, the Chinese Communist Party. And this is pretty much exactly what this law is about, the national security law, that is to, secure national security, secure this power from within China. So there are also some comments. Stay safe out there, keeping on fighting for what you believe. That's from one of our audience. And Mark Gage said the United States should step in, but our president will probably block it. Well, that is a comment for sure. I mean, and Indipath, you're also studying in the U.S. So what kind of, efficacy work or what kind of, activities that you guys have been doing in the U.S.?
So what we have done in U.S. is that we have written letters to United States senators and representatives, and we have also started a White House petition, which unfortunately was unsuccessful. But we hope to continue to advocate to Americans that Hong Kong independence should be achieved, and the United States should support Hong Kongers in our fight for independence.
Right. So can I also bring to this question, like I said before, the Hong Kong branch has been disbanded right before the national security law was enacted in Hong Kong. Now that you guys are kind of continuing the work in elsewhere, for example, in the U.S. with you guys, what kind of worries or concerns do you have, even though you're in overseas?
Yes,
are you guys worried about your personal safety and things like that?
So on our personal safety, we are pretty safe here in U.S., but we do worry about our family members back in Hong Kong, and obviously also worrying our friends in Hong Kong, like the former student localism members, who some of them have been arrested, while some hopefully they can stay safe. And so definitely there's a lot to worry, and that's why we student localism U.S. division are also facing some very tough decisions. But no matter what we definitely know is that like all of us will preserve our spirit for Hong Kong independence, and that is something that we will never give up. And the path to do so whether it will be through the Student Local System US Division or through other ways, we can't be sure yet, but we will preserve the spirit.
Right. So I just want to get your thought on this recent, actually just this morning in Hong Kong, there have been some arrests of pro-democracy lawmakers here. Their arrests are not related to the national security law. It was just some kind of like protest that they've done in the legislature house, some months ago. But Indipath, what do you think about these, recent arrests, even though some of them are not related to the national security law in Hong Kong?
I think this is just continuing what the Hong Kong police and the Hong Kong police has been kept doing since last year, trying to arrest all the dissidents. And obviously, like I say, the Hong Kong police, but what's behind them is obviously the Hong Kong government and the Chinese Communist Party, and they are always continuously trying to find new ways to arrest dissidents. Like for example, before this, they have arrested those who try to commemorate the 4th of June Tiananmen massacre, and so like this time, what they arrested for is for more than 1 year ago, even before this anti-extradition law amendment protest started. It was actually like they were trying to block the extradition law from being passed, and that's why the conflicts happened in the legislature, and they're being arrested for something that happened more than 16 months ago. And so this is like pretty absurd, and I think like these arrests unfortunately will keep on going until the day Hong Kong is liberated.
Right. And do you think that, looking at Hong Kong right now, compared to what we had last year, a lot of the protests, even if it's not like massive weekend rallies, we still have some, sporadic kind of like flash mob type of rally, for example, in the shopping malls and things like that, and seeing what we have right now, protests sort of died down. How do you feel about the very big difference, the stark contrast that you're seeing right now?
I think like it's sad, but it's understandable that after the national security law is passed, like the cost of going out to protest is much higher, and the police have also unfortunately the police have also learned much better tactics, and they are much more successful in trying to stop people from gathering even before we get to coordinate into a rally. But I believe this is throughout Hong Kong's democracy movement, we have a lot of these periods where things seem to be pretty quiet, and activists are fighting it very hard to get people to protest. But I believe this is just one of the intermittents, and we believe that someday something else will trigger us once again to get back into the streets. We will be back, and we will once again show the people's power, and we believe that someday we will triumph.
Right. So just one more question from the audience. David is asking you, what can American citizens do to support your cause? What do you think?
Yeah, so firstly, I would say please go to vote this Tuesday, because being able to vote is a human right, but it also is a very huge privilege that unfortunately us Hong Kongers are unable to do so. So please treasure this privilege and vote for the leader who you believe will support Americans as well as those not as fortunate as Americans. And other than that, also you can write letters to your representatives and senators to convince them to support acts that support Hong Kongers. Like for example, the upcoming Hong Kong Freedom Act, which proposed by Representative Scott Perry, which authorizes the President of the United States to recognize Hong Kong as an independent country, and also the Hong Kong People's Freedom and sorry, I forgot the name, but one of the acts that allows Hong Kongers to more easily get political asylum here in US. And so please write letters or sign petitions to get your senators and representatives to vote yes in these acts that support the Hong Kong democracy movement, and also vote for those who will stand strong against China and do things that will pressure the Chinese Communist Party to stop stop arresting and suppressing dissidents, and eventually, hopefully, the United States will find a way to destroy this CCP tyranny.
Right. I guess just one more question from me, and I really do appreciate you talking to us. And throughout this 25 minutes of our conversation, are you worried for your own personal safety, even though you're still in the U.S.? And are you planning on coming back to Hong Kong?
So obviously, I'm not planning to come back to Hong Kong because I know I will almost certainly be arrested because of my involvement in student localism U.S. division. And on the day I left Hong Kong, I already have the plan that I will be away from Hong Kong for many, many years to come, maybe 10, 20, 30 years, until the day Hong Kong is separated. And as for my personal safety, I think here in US, I am still pretty safe. But I guess there is a little bit of worrying that whether I can get to stay in US, and I'm trying to find ways to do so. Or else I might also look for other places like the UK. But I think I'm much more worried about those who are still in Hong Kong, and I think I have no right to give up just because worrying for myself, because I know that so many more of my friends and brothers and sisters in Hong Kong are suffering much more, and they are facing so much more danger, and yet they still haven't given up, and that is a very huge motivation for me to keep on fighting this fight.
Right, definitely. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Indipath. That was really great to have you on, and thank you so much for your insight and your contribution to our stream. Thank you so much, and hopefully you stay safe in the U.S. No matter where you are, whatever you're doing. Thank you so much. Really great to have you on.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Fight for freedom, son of Hong Kong.
All right, now that's Indipath for us in the U.S. He is a convener of the Student Localism Group, which is a pro-independence group in Hong Kong. Was in Hong Kong, but then now it has moved on to the U.S. because of national security law concerns. So that was Indipath for us, and this is the weekly update that I've had for you on Hong Kong political news. And thank you so much. And send us your regards. Send me message or comments, and follow me on Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook. And also, of course, subscribe and sponsor me on Hacks if you want to, and if you like my reporting. Thank you so much, and we'll see you